you're listening late tonight, let yourself arrive slowly. No rushing, no proving anything, just the quiet permission to be here, exactly as you are. Imagine a narrow trench cut into the earth near the ruins of an ancient city, in the south of Iraq. The trench is not wide, not dramatic. It is simply a slim rectangle of darkness, a place where the ground has been opened with care, like a book lifted at one corner so the pages can breathe. A small lamp hangs over the edge. Its light is warm, honey-colored, soft enough so it doesn't startle the night. Beyond that small circle of light, the desert air holds a thin winter cold, delicate, dry, almost polite. If you listen closely, you can hear the smallest sounds, the faint brush of a hand broom, the hush of sand moving, a distant wind that never needs to raise its voice. And if you'd like, you can breathe with it. In slowly, out, even slower. Down in the trench, the archaeologists move as if they are already in a temple. Not a temple made of stone, but a temple made of patience. Each motion is measured, each touch is gentle. A brush passes over compacted soil, and the dust lifts in a small, lazy bloom, then settles again, soft as flour, soft as time. The ground here is layered, not in a complicated way, not like a puzzle that asks you to think too hard, more like a stack of blankets, one resting upon another, and each layer is a different kind of quiet. Above, there are remnants of later lives, broken pottery, bits of brick, traces of walls that once held warmth. And deeper down, the layers become older and older and older, until your mind stops trying to count the years and simply accepts the feeling of distance. If you've ever looked at the night sky and felt your thoughts grow calmer, because the sky is so wide, so unbothered, then you already understand what deep time feels like. It is not scary here, it is spacious. It is the kind of spaciousness that lets your shoulders soften without you even noticing. The lamp hums quietly, the brush whispers. Somewhere above the trench, a kettle might be warming in a small tent, and someone might be speaking in a low voice, but it doesn't matter. The trench is its own world. And in this little world, something unusual appears, not treasure, not gold, not the bright, dazzling things that demand excitement. This is a different kind of finding, one that comes with a hush. Under the ordinary layers of soil and debris, the brush reveals clay. Not clay mixed with shards or ash. Not clay holding the crumbs of daily life. This clay is clean. It has a smoothness to it, like river silt laid down gently and left untouched. No pottery fragments, no broken beads, no sign of a footprint, just a thick, quiet stretch of pale, water-laid earth, like a long pause in a sentence. The archaeologist leading the work, Leonard Woolley, leans in to look, but even he does not celebrate. Because how do you celebrate a silence? For a moment, everyone simply studies what is there, and what is there is absence. If you've carried a busy mind into bed before, you might recognize this feeling. Sometimes what calms you most is not a new thought. It is the space between thoughts, the clean gap, the breath, and the moment when the inner noise finally steps back. This clay feels like that. And the gentlest question to open the door to curiosity is, what's underneath? Or, why is this place so quiet? You don't have to answer it. You can just let it float there like a paper lantern on slow water. Because underneath that quiet clay, the earth keeps going, and underneath the earth, history keeps going. And underneath history, there are lives we can almost feel, even when we can't name them. Tonight's story is not a chase. It is not a storm. It is a slow walk down a staircase made of soil. We will move through layers the way you move into sleep, one soft step at a time. We will pass through the memory of water rising along ancient coasts. We will drift over lost shorelines that once held fires and laughter. But we will pause at temples built again and again, as if the act of rebuilding itself was a lullaby. We will look up at stone circles placed under open skies where people once watched the stars the way you might watch your ceiling fan, steady, familiar, soothing. But for now we stay here at the trench. The lamp makes the clay shine softly as if it holds a faint moonlight within it. The brush stops. A hand hovers, not wanting to disturb the stillness. It is strange in the best way to find a place where nothing is, a layer where the world seems to have taken a breath and held it. The mind wants to label it: flood, river, change. But we don't need to press those words too hard tonight. We can keep them gentle, like a blanket edge tucked under your chin. What we can say is this: water once came here. Water laid this clay down, or slowly, patiently, without anger. And when the water left, life returned, different but alive. Above the clay, one way of living, below the clay another, between them the clean silence. Sometimes when we're tired, we fear change because we imagine it as a sudden break, but history often changes the way a tide changes the shoreline, one quiet inch at a time, until one day you notice the line is somewhere else, and somehow you're still here. In the trench, the archaeologists begin to understand they are holding a boundary, not a boundary drawn by kings or maps, a boundary drawn by the world itself. And that is the first soft discovery of the night, that the earth keeps records, but it records them in textures and layers, not in loud announcements. If you're listening from a room with dim light, you might glance at the shadows on your wall. Notice how they don't shout, and they simply exist. The clay is like that. Before we drift deeper into tonight's gentle journey, remember to subscribe to Ancient Sleep Story. Here, you'll always find peaceful stories that soothe the heart and quiet the mind. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. Somewhere, far above, the desert sky holds a few winter stars. They look close because the air is clean. The archaeologists do not look up often, but the stars are there anyway, steady, patient. In the same way, your own breath is there, even if you haven't noticed it for hours. Let your jaw loosen, let your tongue rest. If your thoughts wander, let them wander, the way sand drifts along a dune and settles again. In this trench, the clay is a message written without ink. It says, the world changes and then it changes again. It says, what is lost can become a foundation. It says, every ending can be gentle if we meet it slowly. And in a little while, we will step out of this trench and travel, without hurry, across drowned plains, along riverbanks, through temple courtyards, and under star-mapped stones. We will carry this lamp with us, not as a spotlight, but as a small, steady comfort. You only have to follow, like a child following footsteps in soft dust, tonight. Now let's return to the lamp. Imagine the warm circle of light again. The brush begins to move once more, but even slower than before. Not because anyone is afraid, but because everyone is listening to the soil, to the silence, to the feeling that a story is about to open. And the clay layer is thick, several feet, enough to feel like a chapter that takes time to read. And as they measure it, they begin to realize what it implies. That whatever happened here was not a momentary splash. It was a season of water, a long, quiet presence. There is no need for drama, no need for the earth to roar. The earth can change the course of human life with a steady hand. And perhaps that is why this trench feels so calming. It is teaching the oldest lesson in the softest voice. You do not have to fight every wave. Sometimes you endure by yielding, by moving, by finding higher ground inside yourself. If you've been carrying the weight of a modern day, Messages, deadlines, the bright glare of screens, let those things be far away now. Let them be above the clay, in the upper layers. Down here, the only task is to rest your attention on something simple, a brush, a lamp, a layer of clean clay, and beneath it, something else. Not something frightening, not something that will jolt you awake, just a different texture, a different pattern, a different story, waiting patiently in the dark. The archaeologists look at one another. They don't say much, they don't need to. The trench itself feels like a doorway, a quiet threshold, a place where the world invites you to step from now into then, and from then into a much older kind of then, until time becomes less like a line and more like a slow ocean. Tonight we will follow that invitation. We will ask softly, again and again, what's underneath? And with each answer, we will not become more tense. We will become more spacious, more settled. Yes, more gently connected to the people who watched the same stars, to the waters that rose and fell, and to the calm truth that life has always been able to begin again. For now, just one more breath. In, slow. Out, slower. The brush touches the clay, and the story begins to open. Stay with the lamp a little longer. Around the trench, the camp is quietly settled for night. Everything breathes at the same soft pace. Canvas tents rest against the wind. Wooden crates sit stacked like patient furniture. Somewhere, a metal cup is set down carefully, and the sound is small, almost tender, like a spoon touching the side of a bowl. If you imagine the desert beyond the lamp's circle, it is not empty at all. It is wide, yes, and pale under starlight, but it holds a softness too. The dunes look like folded cloth. The air smells faintly of dust and distant water, the kind of smell you notice only when you stop hurrying. In the trench, the clay waits. It is a clean clay layer, thick enough to feel like more than a spill, more than a passing storm. Woolley and his team will later measure it, and the numbers will become part of the story people repeat. 8 feet, 10 feet, sometimes more, depending on the spot. But tonight, we can keep it simple. We can just feel what those feet mean: depth, time, and a long, quiet interval when ordinary life was not leaving its usual crumbs behind. Above the clay, there are signs of people, broken pottery, ash, little fragments of the daily world. Below the clay, there are signs of people again. And in between, this pale, almost untouched band, like the blank space between paragraphs. It is strangely calming to look at a blank space. A blank space does not demand you remember anything. It does not demand you decide. It only offers you room. And that is what this clay offers too, room. If your day has been crowded with tasks, crowded with news, crowded with the bright urgency of modern life, imagine placing that crowd gently above the clay, like setting a heavy coat on a chair. You don't have to throw it away. You don't have to fix it. Just set it down for now. Down here, the only thing that matters is the slow record of the earth. Even in ruin, has a kind of quiet dignity. In 1929, when the trench is cut and the lamp is hung, the ziggurat silhouette still stands in the distance, dark against the sky. It is not as tall as it once was, and time has softened its edges. But it remains unmistakable, a stepped mountain made by human hands, a place where people once climbed toward the heavens, not to conquer them, but to meet them. The ziggurat does not shout across the desert, it simply waits, and under it, under the dust and the compacted soil, the city itself sleeps in layers. Streets that once heard sandals, courtyards that once held bread and laughter, doorways that once framed the glow of evening lamps. If you let your imagination move slowly, you can picture a long ago night in Ur. A family sits near a small fire. The air is cooler than the day, and the heat feels precious. A clay bowl holds warm grains, and the scent of dates or onions lingers on hands. Someone tells a story that is not meant to impress, only to soothe. Somewhere a child leans against an adult shoulder and grows heavy with sleep. And that scene too is a kind of layer. And the archaeologists in their own winter camp mirror it without meaning to. They also gather around warmth. They also speak softly. They also listen to the wind as if it is part of the conversation. History often repeats its comforts before it repeats its troubles. The trench becomes a small theatre of attention. The brush moves, the clay reveals itself, and the mind of the observer begins to stretch. Not into worry, but into wonder. Because wonder, when it is gentle, can be relaxing. There is a particular kind of wonder that feels like a slow exhale, the feeling that life is larger than your current list of problems. That your worries, real as they are, can rest inside something wider. That time itself has carried countless nights like this, and the world is still turning, still offering morning. Oh, above the trench, the sky is very clear. In southern Mesopotamia, the horizon is low and open. Stars come forward easily, as if they enjoy being seen. The Milky Way can appear like a pale river poured across darkness, a reminder that even the sky has its own layers of light. Somewhere, far away, the Euphrates or the marshlands lie in darkness, but their presence is hinted in the air, an almost invisible coolness, a faintness of moisture. This land has always been shaped by water, by rivers that wander and deposit silt, by seasonal changes that teach patience, and that is the quiet clue inside the clay. Clay like this is often born from still water, not the froth of a violent torrent, but water that lingers and settles, letting the finest particles drift down and rest. In that slow settling, the world makes a kind of page, smooth, unbroken, or gently pressed. If you've ever watched dust floating in a shaft of sunlight, you know the feeling. Each particle moves without haste. Each one finds its place. Now imagine that, but on a scale of years, decades, perhaps longer. Fine silt arriving little by little until the living surfaces are covered. The courtyards and streets become muffled. The small objects become hidden. The ordinary traces disappear, not because they were erased in anger, but because they were tucked under a blanket. It is not difficult to see why Woolley's mind might drift toward the old stories. In Mesopotamia, there are ancient tales of a great flood, stories carried in clay tablets, stories where gods speak, where boats are built, where animals are gathered, where survival is a matter of listening and humility. Those tales are famous now, echoed later in other traditions, but in the trench, the archaeologists are not trying to prove a myth. They are simply noticing that the earth has its own way of remembering water. And perhaps the truth is softer than any legend. Perhaps there was a flood that rose and fell not over the whole planet, not as a cosmic punishment, but as a great change in one region, enough to cover a city, enough to force people to move, enough to leave a clean band of clay as a marker not of doom, but of transition. Transitions can be frightening when they arrive in our own lives, yet from the distance of time, transitions are often revealed as bridges, a life before, a life after, and the quiet space in between where the old dissolves and the new begins. And if you are listening tonight with a tender heart, if you have been through changes that made you tired, let this clay offer you a kind message. Change can be slow, and even when it is heavy, it can be survivable. Life can return. Down in the trench, a worker's hand pauses, not because of fear, but because the clay is so unmarked that it feels almost sacred. He might feel in his bones the weight of what it means to touch a surface laid down before his grandparents were born, before his language had its current shape, before the modern world had found its current speed. He might feel the temptation to hurry, to get to the interesting part beneath. But the trench teaches the opposite. It teaches slow. And so in our story, we also move slow. We let the setting become steady in your mind, the winter air, the warm lamp, the soft dust. And we let the city of rise faintly in the distance, like a memory that refuses to disappear. We let the sky press its calm hand on everything, and we recognize something else. This trench is not only about the past, it is about the way the past holds us. Even if you have never been to even if you have never studied ancient history, your body knows what it means to seek shelter, to gather around warmth, to listen for safety in the sounds of night. Those are human instincts older than any temple. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. So let the lantern be small. Let it be the lamp above the trench, steady and unchanging. And let the clay be the first page we read together. Because beneath it, the next page is waiting. It is older. It is darker. It is closer to the first patterns of city life in this region. Closer to the earliest chapters where people learned to build with mud brick, to plant near rivers, to keep records, to look up at the sky and wonder what it meant. The brush will eventually reach that boundary. The clean clay will thin grain by grain until it gives way to a different soil, one with fragments again, one with signs of life again. And the moment that happens will not be a shock. It will be a gentle shift, like the moment you realize you have moved from waking to dreaming. For now, feel the calm of the threshold. If your eyes are open, let them soften. If they are closed, let them remain closed. Either way, let your attention drift downward as if you were descending into the earth on a slow staircase. We are going to step under the clay, or we are going to follow the quiet record of water. We're going to begin our journey through long, slow cycles of change, cycles that do not threaten but teach the art of adapting, the art of moving gently with the world. And as we go, we will keep returning to this feeling. The world can be vast, and you can still be safe. One more breath with the trench. In. Warm air, gentle. Out. The desert releases you. And now the story leans forward, not in a rush, but in a soft invitation, because the next layer is ready to speak. Now, with the lamp still glowing behind us, let the trench become a quiet doorway rather than a destination. We do not leave it abruptly. We simply widen the frame, the way a camera drifts back in a gentle film, letting the small circle of light remain steady while the surrounding darkness gains shape. The desert night stretches. The ziggurat silhouette holds its patient steps. And above everything, the sky settles into its familiar softness. If it helps, imagine you are standing at the edge of the trench with your hands tucked into a warm coat. Your breath appears and disappears in the cool air. The archaeologists' voices are low, almost indistinguishable from the wind. No one is in a hurry because the story we're following is not a straight line. It is a tide of deep time. Deep time can sound heavy, but it often feels like relief. It asks nothing urgent from you. It simply reminds you that life has always moved in slow rhythms, seasons, centuries, millennia, like long waves rolling in and rolling out, again and again. And in those long waves, people have always adapted, not in a loud, heroic way, but in the simple way a household adapts when the weather changes, moving a chair closer to the fire, storing grain a little differently, walking a slightly different path to the river. Tonight we will follow a gentle pattern, almost like 7 quiet breaths, 7 broad cycles of shifting water, shifting land, and shifting human attention, not as a strict timeline, not as a debate, but as a calming way to travel. So take your time. If your shoulders are tight, let them soften. If your brow is tense, let it smooth. The night has room for you. The first cycle is water rising slowly. Imagine a coastline thousands of years ago. The air is salt-sweet, and the shore is not a hard line the way it is on modern maps. It is a wide, living margin, mudflats, reeds, shallow bays. People know this shore by feel, by smell, by the sound of birds in the morning. And then, over many generations, the sea begins to creep inward. Not like a sudden wall, not like a dramatic collapse, more like a patient visitor who returns every year and sits a little closer. A little more salt in the groundwater, a little less dry land where children once ran. The shoreline shifts by the width of a few steps, then a few more. People notice, they adjust. They move their camps a little inland. They learn which paths flood first. They learn to listen. If you have ever watched the waterline on a beach, you know how the sea writes its story. It erases and redraws until you stop expecting the line to stay put. Now let the story widen again. Picture a dream map, the kind the mind draws when it is half awake and half asleep. On this map, there are lands that do not exist anymore, not because they were imaginary, but because the water eventually covered them. In the north, between what we now call Britain and the European continent, there was once a broad plain. People walked across it, animals migrated across it, rivers ran through it. Today we call that vanished land Doggerland, but tonight you don't need the name. You only need the feeling, ordinary ground now resting under the sea. Far away in the southeast, near the islands of Indonesia, there was once a larger stretch of connected land. Wide lowlands that are now drowned beneath warm water. We call parts of it Sunderland, but again, the name is less important than the image. Shorelines that used to be farther out, forests that used to stand where waves now move. These places are not tragedies in our story. They are reminders that the world changes its shape gently, and the way your body changes posture when it finds a more comfortable position in bed. And as those lands were slowly swallowed, people did what people always do. They carried their lives with them. They carried their skills, their stories, their ways of cooking and weaving, their small habits of comfort. They carried their attention, moving from shore to river, from open coast to sheltered valley, from wandering routes to more settled places. This is the second cycle, gathering. When the coasts become less reliable, rivers become more precious. Rivers promise fresh water, rivers promise fertile soil, rivers promise a rhythm you can learn. And so over time, human lives gather along the great river systems, not because someone commands it, but because the body knows where it can breathe easier. In Mesopotamia, that gathering happens between 2 rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, whose waters carry silt and life. When the rivers rise and fall, they lay down fine sediment that darkens the fields. Imagine early communities choosing a place near a bend where reeds grow thick and the soil feels soft beneath the foot. Imagine them shaping mud into bricks, letting the sun dry them until they hold their form. Imagine walls rising slowly, not as fortresses but as shelter. At dusk, the riverbank cools, the day's heat loosens its grip and the air turns gentle on the skin. Reeds whisper against one another. A bird calls once, then goes quiet, as if it remembers this is the hour for rest. In a small courtyard, someone pats wet clay into a simple bowl. Nearby, a lamp is lit, small, steady, and golden like the lamp above Woolly's trench. A meal is shared without hurry, a story is told without urgency, And somewhere in the background, almost like a soft percussion, water keeps moving. It is easy to forget in the modern world how comforting a reliable rhythm can be. But the river offers that rhythm. It returns, it rises, it falls. It leaves behind dark soil that holds warmth and promise. People learn to time their lives to it, the way you might time your breathing to the calm voice you're hearing now. If you want, take a slow breath here, one that feels like the river's pace. In, like water gathering. Out, like water releasing. When a community learns a rhythm, it begins to record it, not with loud monuments at first, but with small marks, a tally, a sign, a repeated pattern pressed into clay. Later, those marks will become writing, and writing will become history. But tonight, we don't need the details. We only need the feeling of a human hand pressing meaning into soft earth, trusting that it will dry and last, because the earth is patient with our messages. The third cycle is change in the sky, not a prophecy, not a doom, just a slow shift in patterns that people learn to read. Perhaps rains become less predictable. Perhaps dry seasons stretch a little longer. Perhaps dust becomes more common in the wind. People respond in simple ways, storing water, adjusting planting times, sharing knowledge, creating rituals that help them remember what to do when the world feels uncertain. This is one of the quiet secrets of history. Most resilience looks ordinary while it is happening. Now let the story return to if we could float through time as easily as breath, we might see Ur's earliest layers forming during these long shifts. We might see the rivers wandering across the plain. We might see communities choosing again and again to stay near water. And we might understand the clay layer in the trench as part of the same rhythm. A river rises beyond its usual patience. Water spreads across low land. Fine silt settles. The city pauses. Then life returns. Not as an ending, but as a continuation. If your mind has been gripping the day, let this be a soft lesson. You can pause and then continue. You can rest and then rebuild. Now for our fourth cycle, we look upward. In places where the desert meets open sky, people watch the stars as if the stars were a calendar. They align markers and notice where the sun rises at different times of year, not to control the cosmos, but to live in harmony with it. The fifth cycle brings us back to stories. When waters rise and people move, they remember. Over time, those memories become tales told near warmth, tales that say, once the land changed and we found a way. And while people remember in stories, the planet remembers in quieter ways. Layers of mud settle in riverbeds, dust drifts and rests in hollows. In far places, ice holds tiny bubbles of ancient air, and coral lays down faint bands year after year, like rings inside a tree. Nothing announces itself, everything simply keeps a gentle record. It is like a library where the shelves are made of water, stone, and time, and all you have to do is listen for a moment and let pages turn. The sixth cycle is repetition, and people rebuild sacred spaces in familiar shapes. They remake pottery in familiar patterns. They repeat songs, they repeat gestures. They keep the thread of culture from snapping by tying it again and again in small knots of habit. And finally, the seventh cycle is quiet continuity. The earth keeps turning, the rivers keep carrying silt, the sea keeps moving in and out, and human beings, tired, hopeful, ordinary, keep making homes, keep telling stories, keep finding ways to rest. Now, very gently, our journey returns to the trench once more. Imagine the brush reaching the bottom of the clean clay. Imagine the first tiny fragment appearing again, a dark speck, a grain of charcoal, the edge of a small shard, not a treasure, just proof that life is present again beneath the pores. And in that moment, under the warm lamp, and something feels different. Not louder, not sharper, just different in the way the air feels when you realize you are almost asleep. Because underneath the clay, another chapter waits, older, quieter, and filled with the early shapes of devotion, the first steady habits of building, and the comfort of repetition. And we are about to step into it. Under the clean clay, the world does not explode back into being. It returns the way morning returns, quietly, one shade of light at a time. In the trench at the first signs are small, a darker grain, a faint smudge of ash, a tiny shard that catches the lamplight and then disappears again as the brush passes over it. Nothing dramatic, just the gentle confirmation that people lived here before the pause, and then again after. If you like, let your breathing match the brush. In, as the bristles touch the soil. Out, as the dust settles. The archaeologists are careful not to disturb what the earth has held so long. And as they move downward, the layers begin to feel less like dirt and more like memory. Each thin band a different texture of human life. Tonight, we follow that feeling. We let the trench become a staircase into older calm. Because beneath and beneath many cities in this region, there is an even older story of settling near water, shaping mud into shelter, and returning again and again to the same few comforting patterns. One of those patterns is the temple. Not the temple as a place of grandeur, but the temple as a habit. A repeated gesture. A community saying softly, "This is where we gather, this is where we remember, this is where we steady ourselves." Far from out closer to the marshy edges where land and water meet, there was another ancient place, Eridu. Its name sounds like a breath in the back of the throat. Soft, sandy, unhurried. Eridu is often spoken of as one of the earliest cities, but tonight we don't need that title. We only need the image of a settlement resting near water, where reeds whisper, where the horizon is wide, where people look up at stars and down at ripples and feel held between two quiet infinities. At Eridu, archaeologists found something that feels like a lullaby built from brick. Temples stacked on temples. Not one temple replacing another in anger, but one temple rising on the bones of the last, like a new blanket laid over an old one. And the remarkable part, our soft discovery, is that many of these temples held to a familiar form, a similar footprint, a similar orientation, a similar sense of this is how we do it. 17 layers have been described in some summaries, many rebuildings, many returns. But don't let the number wake you up, let it soothe you instead. Because repetition, when it is gentle, is one of the oldest comforts in the world. Think of the things you repeat at night without even noticing. The way you adjust your pillow, the way you pull the blanket up, the way you check the door is locked or the lights are off. Not out of fear, but out of habit, out of love for order. The people of Eridu, across long stretches of time, did something similar. They returned to the same sacred spot and rebuilt, preserving a shape that felt right. It is as if the community kept saying, "We are still here, and this is still home." And that is an idea you can rest inside. Like if the modern world has made you feel scattered, like your days change too quickly, like you can't find the thread, let Eridu offer a quiet counterweight. Some threads do continue, some patterns do return, some places are rebuilt, not because the past is perfect, but because the heart recognizes what steadies it. Now let's move through a small cinematic scene as if we are walking through Eridu at dusk. The air is warm but easing, a light wind moves through reeds, and the reeds make a sound like slow applause, soft, continuous, never sharp. Mud brick walls hold the day's heat and release it gently, like a hand warming another hand. A shallow canal glimmers in the last light, and the water carries tiny flecks of sky. People move without hurry. Someone carries a bundle of rushes for weaving. Someone else rinses a clay pot. And the water drips back into itself, making small rings that widen and disappear. A child's laughter rises once and then fades, as if the evening has reminded everyone it is time to be quiet. And on a low platform nearby, the temple stands. Not towering like a mountain, but present, solid, familiar, slightly raised above the damp ground. Inside there may be offerings, grain, fish, small objects placed with care. Outside there are footprints in the mud, soft-edged, already beginning to blur. It is easy to imagine the temple as a place of fear, but it can also be imagined as a place of comfort, a place where people brought their worries and set them down, the way you might set your phone on a table and finally let your hands be empty. And that is the next gentle lesson. Civilization did not grow only from ambition. It also grew from the human need to feel safe. Now from Eridu we let our story drift softly into the wider world. Because the same long cycles we felt in the last part, water rising, land shifting, people gathering, did not only shape Mesopotamia. They shaped the way humans learned to read the sky, to mark time, to notice the subtle turning of seasons. And here we meet another quiet place, the edge of a desert where a lake once appeared after rains, then vanished again into dryness. A place known today as Nabta Playa. If you don't know the name, that's perfectly fine. Just keep the image, a shallow basin in the desert, sometimes holding water, sometimes holding only silence. When the rains came, life arrived. Grass, animals, people. When the basin dried, the life moved elsewhere, carrying its memories like a small bundle. In Nabta Playa, stones were arranged, not as a fortress, not as a threat, but as a kind of gentle pointing toward the sky. Some stones align with the rising sun at certain times of year. Some suggest attention to stars. It is not necessary to argue about exact meanings tonight. What matters is the feeling. People watching the heavens, not with anxiety, but with care, wanting to know when the season would change. Because seasons mattered, a great deal, in a land where water could arrive and leave, where grass could bloom and fade. Knowing the rhythm of the year was not a luxury. It was a way to stay calm, a way to reduce uncertainty, a way to sleep with a little more trust that tomorrow had a shape. And perhaps you understand that. Perhaps you also crave a rhythm, something steady enough to lean on, a routine, a small ritual, or a familiar voice at night. If so, let this story mirror that comfort back to you. Across thousands of years, across deserts and rivers, people have always searched for steadiness. Sometimes they found it in bricks laid in the same pattern. Sometimes they found it in stones that pointed to the sky. Sometimes they found it in stories told beside warmth. And sometimes they found it in the earth itself, because the earth remembers. Here is another soft discovery, very light like a feather. The world has its own quiet libraries. Ice can keep tiny bubbles of ancient air. Coral can keep layers like pale stripes. Sediment can keep dust and pollen year after year, like a diary written without words. Even if we never read those diaries ourselves, it is soothing to know they exist. It means the past is not entirely lost, but it is held somewhere gently. Now let the camera of your imagination return to the trench at again. The lamp is still steady. The cold is still thin. The brush keeps its slow rhythm. Above, the clean clay layer remains like a pause in a song. Below, the older layers continue, holding traces of a world learning how to be a world. And as the archaeologists reach deeper, you can feel the story preparing another calm turning point. Not a shock, not a cliff, just a tender shift in perspective, like realizing that what you've been calling ruins are also roots. Because those temples at Eridu, those stones at the desert's edge, those drowned lands beneath the sea, they all tell the same quiet truth. Human life has always been a kind of rebuilding, a gentle returning, a way of saying again and again, we are here, and we will make warmth. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. Perhaps a place you return to, a ritual that steadies you, a quiet habit that makes the day feel less sharp. Before we go, let's linger for a moment with the idea of stacked places. If you could lift the ground like a soft quilt, you would find older quilts beneath it, each one once warmed by living bodies, each one once touched by ordinary hands. This is comforting in a way that is hard to explain with logic, because it means you are not the first person to feel tired at the end of a long day. You are not the first to seek a corner of calm. You are not the first to look for a sign that life can be steadied again. Some nights the mind insists on measuring and solving, but the earth does not solve, it holds. Or it holds footprints until rain blurs them. It holds ash until new walls cover it. It holds clay until another hand, centuries later, brushes it gently and remembers to breathe. And if your thoughts drift, let them drift like that, soft, unforced, allowed to blur. Nothing here needs to be perfect, only quiet enough for you to rest. The night is wide and kind tonight, and now, as you rest, we will follow the next thread even deeper, toward the watery memories that became legends, and toward the calm, surprising idea that a flood story can be less about fear and more about continuity. For now, one more slow breath. In, like a temple being rebuilt, brick by brick. Out, like water, smoothing the clay. We drift onward. Some nights, the most restful thing is not an answer, but a gentle shape of understanding. So tonight, we will let the idea of flood soften. Not as a threat, not as a headline, not as a loud ending, but as a slow movement of the world, like breath, like tide, like the long, quiet turning of seasons. Return once more to in winter 1929. The lamp still glows above the trench, the brush still makes its faint, comforting whisper, and that clean clay layer, pale, smooth, almost untouched, still holds the feeling of a pause. Woolley's team studies it, and even their minds, trained to classify and measure, begin to listen for meaning. Because the clay does not look like ordinary living soil. It looks like water's handwriting. If you imagine water settling, you can almost see it. First, a dim, spreading sheen across low ground, then silence, then the slow snowfall of fine silt drifting down through stillness, until the ground is covered in a soft, even sheet. When the world lays something down that evenly, it feels deliberate. But it is not deliberate the way a person is deliberate. It is deliberate the way gravity is deliberate, the way night is deliberate, the way sleep comes when your body finally believes it is safe. And that is why this part of the story can soothe, because the record of the earth is not written in panic. It is written in patience. Now let the camera of your imagination glide away from the trench, not fast, not far, just enough to see the broader plain. Imagine the Euphrates and Tigris as quiet silver threads in the darkness, and imagine the lowlands where water can spread wide when it chooses. This land has always been a conversation between river and soil. Sometimes the river speaks softly, staying in its banks. Sometimes it speaks more widely and the whole plain listens. When that happens, people listen too. They notice which paths disappear first. They learn which mounds stay dry. They move their fires a little higher. They shift their sleep to the safer places. They do not always understand why the water comes as it does, but they understand deeply that it will come and it will go. So they live with it the way you live with weather, the way you live with the moods of a year. In later centuries, people would tell stories about this, not to frighten children, but to help them remember, because a story is a kind of container. It holds what matters without requiring you to carry it in your hands every day. In Mesopotamia, those stories took a famous form: a great flood, a chosen survivor, a vessel, new beginning. We know versions of these tales from clay tablets written long after many floods had already come and gone. And when we hear them now, in a modern world that loves big drama, we sometimes imagine that the ancients were shouting a warning. But listen closely, and you can hear something else. You can hear the tenderness of memory. You can hear the recognition that life can break and still continue. You can hear the quiet gratitude of a people who survived a season of water and then returned to build again. Tonight we will treat those flood stories as lullabies of continuity, because the deepest comfort is not that nothing changes, but that change does not have to erase you. If you've ever gone through a personal flood, a hard year, a loss, a move, an illness, a long stretch of worry, you might understand this more than you realize. At the time, it can feel as if the water will never recede. Yet one day, often quietly, it does. And what remains is not only damage. What remains is also knowledge, a new way of living, a deeper kindness toward yourself and others, a sense that you can begin again. This is the soft reflection hiding inside the clay. At above and below the clay, people lived. Between them, the world changed, and then life returned. Now let us travel gently to the edge of a hearth in an ancient house. Imagine a room made of mud brick, the walls thick enough to keep the night air out. A small fire glows low, not roaring, just steady. The scent of smoke clings to woven reeds and to hair. An adult speaks in a slow voice, and then when the children listen with that particular stillness that comes before sleep. The story begins not with fear, but with a tone that says, "Listen, and you will remember." The story says that water rose. The story says that people moved. The story says that someone built a vessel, or found higher ground, or followed a sign. And then the story says, softly, that the world became quiet again. This is not so different from what we do at night now. We turn off bright lights, we lower the volume of the day, we put our bodies into a safe shape, we listen to a voice that guides us away from urgency, we let our minds float through images that make us feel less alone. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. Now, can we return to the idea of the silent library? The earth keeps memories in many forms. In riverbeds, layers of silt and clay build up like pages. In caves, mineral drips make slow curtains of stone. In deserts, dust settles in quiet basins. In polar places, ice traps tiny bubbles of ancient air, as if the atmosphere itself has been saved in a glass bead. In the sea, corals and shells build rings and bands year after year, holding the rhythm of water temperature and chemistry. Even trees far from keep time in their rings, each line a year, each year a small story. You do not need to memorize these details. Let them be like distant stars, present, steady, not demanding. The soothing part is simply this: the world remembers without being loud, the world archives without shouting, and because the world remembers, we are allowed to let go a little. We do not have to hold everything in our minds all the time. Back in the trench, the archaeologists continue downward. And as they do, another gentle realization arrives. The clay layer is not only about a single moment. It is part of a larger pattern of water and human life in this region. Mesopotamia is a place where rivers wander. They build up levees, then change course. They deposit silt, creating new land, then take it away somewhere else. People respond by building canals, by raising their floors, by learning the landscape as if it were a living animal. This relationship between water and settlement is intimate. It is not war, it is partnership, sometimes tense, sometimes generous, always ongoing. This is why flood memories might become sacred stories. And not because the past was obsessed with disaster, but because the past was attentive to change. And there is a quiet dignity in attention. You can feel it in the temples of Eridu, rebuilt in familiar shapes. You can feel it in the stones of desert watchers, aligned with sky rhythms. You can feel it in the careful brushstroke of an archaeologist in 1929. Attention is the opposite of panic. Attention is what slows the heart. Now we drift again, gently, to another drowned place on our dream map. Imagine Doggerland not as a tragedy, but as a sleeping landscape, a plain under the sea with old river valleys now filled with water. Fishermen today sometimes pull ancient bones or tools from the seabed, not with triumph, but with a strange tenderness, as if the sea has been holding someone's childhood home. And that tenderness is what we carry in our story. Because tenderness is what helps the mind loosen. So when we speak of rising water, we speak softly. We say the coastline changed. We say people moved inland. We say stories traveled with them. We do not need to say the world ended. The world did not end. It turned a page. And the page-turning sound is quiet. Now let's come to a small turning point, very gentle, like a curtain moving in a night breeze. Woolley's team, seeing the clay, wonders, is this the trace of a flood remembered in myth? Or is it one flood among many, part of a landscape that sometimes floods and then heals? Either way, the clay is a boundary between two chapters. And that is enough for our sleeping minds. We do not need certainty. We only need the beauty of the question. And the gentlest question to open the door to curiosity is, what's underneath? Or why is this place so quiet? Underneath, life. Underneath, older streets. Underneath, the early patterns of building. Underneath, the human habit of returning. And now, as you listen, feel how your own body may be returning too. Returning from the busyness of the day. Returning to the slower truth that you are allowed to rest. Returning to the simple rhythm of inhale and exhale. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. A place you left and later returned to. A season that felt like water and then passed. A moment when you realized quietly that you were still here. And now, with the clay's hush still in our ears, and we will drift onward to the next calm discovery, the way ancient people used sky and stone to mark time, and how those steady markers can help us, even tonight, feel less rushed. For now, let the lamp dim slightly in your mind. Let the trench become a soft rectangle of darkness again. Let the brush set down. Let the night hold you. If your eyelids feel heavy, let them be heavy. The past can carry the thinking for you tonight. One slow breath in, like water settling, out, like a page turning. Tonight, we let the water's story rest for a moment, the way a wave rests between movements. We do not leave it behind. We simply allow the rhythm to carry us upward, out of the trench, out of the lowlands, and into the open air where the sky feels wide and quiet. Imagine dawn in a desert basin. Not bright dawn, but not sharp dawn, just a pale loosening of darkness. The horizon turns the color of ash and soft apricot. The sand is cool underfoot, and the wind moves lightly, as if it is careful not to wake anyone. In a place like this, long ago, people came when the rains returned. They did not arrive in a hurry. They came with animals, with woven bags, with vessels for water. They came because they remembered that this basin could hold a lake for a while. When it did, grass would appear, and the air would smell faintly sweet. When it didn't, the basin would be only a quiet hollow, a bowl of dust under a high sky. This place is known today as Nabta Playa on the edge of the Sahara. But you do not have to hold the name, hold the feeling instead. A seasonal home, visited and left again, like a slow breath the land takes. When the shallow water gathered, it mirrored the sky. And when the water was gone, the sky still remained, unchanged, patient and full of repeating patterns. If you have ever looked up at stars on a clear night and felt your thoughts become simpler, you already know why ancient people watched the heavens. The sky does not argue. The sky does not demand. It offers a steady choreography, and that steadiness can calm the nervous system in any century. So imagine a group of people sitting near the basin at night. A small fire burns low. The flames do not leap, they curl. The air smells of smoke and dry grass. Someone wraps a cloak closer around their shoulders. Someone else leans back and watches the star field as if it were a familiar ceiling. They are not staring because they are afraid. They are watching because they want to live in rhythm. When will the rains return? When will the heat intensify? When will the animals migrate? When is it time to move gently toward the next place? These questions are practical, yes, but they are also soothing. A question about timing is a question about predictability, and predictability, when it arrives, lets the body unclench. So in places like Nabta Playa, people arranged stones, not a wall, not a trap, not a weapon, just stones, placed with intention, in patterns that suggest attention to the sun's path and to certain stars. Tonight, we don't need the strictest measurements or the debates that scholars sometimes hold. We only need the image. Stones resting on sand, pointing quietly toward the sky, as if saying, "This is where the year turns." If you listen closely, you might feel how this connects back to the temples of Eridu. A temple rebuilt in the same shape is a kind of calendar too. A repeated footprint says, "This is our center," again and again. In the same way, a stone alignment says, "This is our season," again and again. Repetition is not boredom. Repetition is shelter. Think of how calming it can be to do the same gentle thing at night, dimming the lights, adjusting the pillow, turning on a familiar story. Your mind recognizes the pattern and relaxes into it. Ancient communities recognized patterns in the sky and relaxed into them too. Now let's slow the camera and walk among those stones. Some stones are taller, some smaller, some half buried. None of them are polished. They are ordinary stones made extraordinary only by placement, by the human choice to care where something sits. On that choice is intimate. It says, "We noticed." It says, "We remembered." It says, "We will help the next person know the rhythm so they do not feel lost." If the modern world has made you feel lost, too many updates, too many interruptions, let these stones offer a quiet comfort. They are an ancient form of kindness, a signpost that does not shout. And here is a soft discovery hidden in that kindness. Much of early science was also early soothing. To watch the sky is to widen your attention beyond your immediate worry. To mark a solstice is to trust that the world turns. To align a stone with a star is to accept that some things return reliably, even when your own life feels uncertain. This is why looking up can feel like medicine. There is another quiet reason these sky markers feel so comforting. They are shared. A person can look up alone, but a community looks up together. And in that togetherness, worry becomes lighter. Picture the moment just before sunrise. The fire has become a bed of coals, and the coals breathe with a dim orange pulse. A thin frost may form on a water skin, or maybe just a cool film, barely there, like a whisper of cold. Someone stands and stretches slowly, joints creaking in the gentle way they do when the body has slept on earth. Their feet press into sand that still holds the night's coolness, and the sand gives under them like a soft answer. They walk toward the stones, not to perform a grand ceremony, but to do something simple, to check the world's rhythm. They face the horizon. They wait. In that waiting, there is a kind of trust. The sun does not need to be begged. It will arrive. As the first light lifts, it touches the tops of the stones and then slides down their sides, creating a brief glow along the rough edges. Shadows stretch long, then slowly shorten. A child watches this as if it is magic, but it is also mathematics made gentle, angles, time, return. And the adults, seeing the same light they have seen many mornings, feel their own inner clock settle. Today will be hot later. Today the basin may shimmer. Today they will move at a certain hour. The sky is not a tyrant, it is a guide. If you bring this image into your own night, you might notice something similar. When you let yourself follow a steady cue, this voice, your breath, the quiet in your room, your body begins to believe the same simple promise. Rest will arrive. So we can take one more soft cue from the stones, to be patient with what takes time. A year takes time, but healing takes time, sleep takes time. And none of those things are improved by force. If you want, let your attention rest on something small right now, the feeling of air at the tip of your nose, the weight of the blanket, the quiet behind your eyelids. These are your own gentle markers, your own constellation of calm. Now, drift back to Mesopotamia again very gently. Imagine people in and Eridu too, lifting their eyes at night. They watched different constellations perhaps, and the horizon line was different, but the feeling was the same, the sky as a steady companion. In many ancient cultures, stars were not distant objects. They were guides, reminders, timekeepers. Not in a mystical sense we must prove tonight, but in a human sense, the sky helped people pace their lives, and pacing is what we need at bedtime. Okay, so if your mind is racing, let it race upward instead of inward. Let it race toward the stars, where the scale is bigger and the urgency becomes small. Imagine a slow rotation of the night sky. A few hours pass. The stars shift slightly, the basin cools, the fire becomes a deeper red. Someone yawns, someone pulls a child closer, someone tells a story that begins with once and ends with silence. The body learns night is safe. The body learns patterns return. The body learns you can let go. Now return for a moment to the trench at The clean clay layer was a pause made by water. The stone alignments are pauses made by people, markers in the flow of time. Both are forms of memory. Water remembers by laying down silt. People remember by placing stones, and both kinds of memory are quiet, patient, and surprisingly gentle. When there is something deeply calming about quiet memory. Loud memory can feel like a demand, an alarm, a siren. Quiet memory feels like a hand resting on your shoulder, saying, "You don't have to hold this alone." Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. So let the lantern be the stars now. Imagine the Milky Way faintly visible, like a thin veil. Imagine a single bright point, Venus or a star, hovering near the horizon. Imagine the stones at Nabta Playa receiving that light without changing, without needing to react. Your own mind can receive the story in the same way, without reacting. And as you receive it, you may notice something else, a softness spreading through your chest, a loosening behind your eyes, a gentle sinking in your limbs. That sinking is good, and that sinking is the beginning of sleep. In the next part, we will drift back down again from sky to earth, from stones to sediment, and we will visit the silent library in a new way. Ice, coral, and layered ground that keep the past without noise. We will let that quiet record become a kind of lullaby for the modern mind, reminding it that it does not need to solve everything tonight. For now, stay with the stones under the stars. In, a slow breath like a year turning. Out, even slower, like a night deepening. And if you wish, let your thoughts become simple as sand, each grain settling where it belongs, each worry lying down without argument, each moment becoming softer. The desert does not rush the dawn, the sky does not rush the stars, and you do not need to rush sleep. Let us drift down again as gently as a feather settling on a book. We have looked up at stones that point to the sky, and we have listened to water leaving its pale page of clay. Now we travel to the places where the planet keeps its memories without speaking too loudly, places that hold the past the way a quiet room holds a sleeping child. If you are listening in the dark, allow your attention to soften. You do not need to picture everything clearly. Even a faint image is enough, a whisper is enough. The mind, when it is nearing sleep, understands suggestion better than detail. Imagine first a field of ice, not harsh, not frightening, just wide, clean stillness. The surface is pale under a dim blue light, and the air is so cold it feels smooth, as if cold itself can have texture. Somewhere, a wind travels across the ice with a sound like distant silk. Nothing moves quickly, nothing asks you to hurry. Deep within this ice, tiny bubbles rest, trapped long ago. Each bubble is a small pocket of ancient air, an exhale held inside crystal. It is a strange and comforting thought that the atmosphere once breathed, and a little of that breath was saved, not for drama, not for spectacle, but simply because ice is patient. You do not need to think about measurements tonight. You only need the feeling. The past can be held gently. Now imagine warm seas far from the ice. In shallow water, coral grows slowly, adding layer upon layer as time passes. The layers are so subtle that a single day means nothing to them. A year is a small ripple. Decades are a calm accumulation. If you could hold a piece of coral in your hand, you might see faint bands like the rings of a tree. The sea does not write in ink. It writes in quiet layering, the way your own body writes experience into muscle and memory. And then imagine a riverbed, where the current slows, fine silt settles, dust, pollen, tiny fragments of leaf and ash drift down and rest. In time, more arrives and covers it. The riverbed becomes a stack of thin, patient pages. It is not a library with shelves and labels. It is a library made of softness, sediment, clay, and time. This is the gentle truth we carry tonight. The world keeps diaries everywhere. Some diaries are ice, some are coral, some are mud at the bottom of a river. Some are the quiet layers beneath where a clean band of clay separates one chapter from the next. If your life has felt too loud lately, I will let the idea of these silent libraries calm you. They suggest that meaning does not require shouting. History does not always arrive as a trumpet. Sometimes it arrives as a soft line, a pale band, a faint ring, a bubble suspended in ice. And because the world keeps records in this quiet way, you are allowed to release your own mental grip. You do not have to rehearse every worry tonight. You do not have to hold every memory in your hands. Like sediment, you can let it settle. Now let us return slowly toward Mesopotamia. Picture the lowlands again. Dark soil near the rivers, reeds moving like slow hands, the horizon open enough to make your chest feel spacious. At night, the sky is a lid of stars, and the rivers carry reflections like gentle threads. In that land, people once built with mud brick. Mud brick seems humble, but it holds a quiet genius. It uses what the land offers, and it returns to the land without violence. A wall of mud brick stands for years, perhaps for generations, then softens, crumbles, becomes earth again. In that cycle, there is a calm humility. Nothing is permanent, and still, nothing is wasted. If you want, let that be a medicine for a modern mind that sometimes demands certainty. The past lived without certainty, and still it found warmth. Now we step back to Woolley's Trench, where the lamp glows softly over the narrow cut in the earth. The camp is quiet. The brush continues its small, steady work, and the clean clay layer, the pause, still waits like a held breath. What does it mean to find a pause in the story of a city? It can mean that the world changed for a while. Water may have arrived. Life may have moved. And time may have shifted its weight from one place to another. But the most important meaning is gentler. The pause did not end the story. Above the clay, people lived. Below the clay, people lived. Between them, there is the hush of transition, the quiet interval where one way of living loosened and another gathered itself. Many of us carry our own clay layers inside. A year that feels like a blank space, a season when you stopped recognizing your life for a while, a time when you moved or lost something or simply became tired. Those internal layers can feel lonely when you're inside them. But from a distance, they are also boundaries between chapters. They are proof that the story continued. And here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. Now, so let the trench be a lantern. Not bright, not urgent, just enough to show the next step. The archaeologists in their winter coats lean closer as the brush reaches the lower edge of the clay. They do not rush. They do not celebrate. They simply notice, in the way you might notice a dream beginning, a shift in texture, a small return of fragments, a whisper of charcoal, the faintest edge of a broken pot. Life returning. And as we watch it return, we can let another soft question drift through the mind, one that does not demand an answer, only an easing of attention. Why is it comforting to know that the world remembers? Perhaps because remembering is a form of care. Ice cares by holding bubbles of air. Coral cares by holding rings of seasons. Sediment cares by holding dust and pollen. And the earth at cares by holding a pause, clean clay, without judgment, without noise, until a patient hand can uncover it again. In the same way, your body cares for you by keeping its own quiet archives. The warmth you felt in childhood sunlight, the smell of a kitchen at night, the sound of rain on a window, these things can still live inside you, even if you have not touched them in years. They are your own silent library. And at bedtime you can visit it gently. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. It can be small, a scent, a place, a simple moment that felt safe. Your memory might help someone else soften too. Now let the images become even quieter. Imagine the earth turning slowly beneath the stars. Imagine rivers shifting their channels, not angrily, but naturally. Eyed like a person changing position in sleep. Imagine the sea resting over drowned plains, rocking them in steady darkness. Imagine ice holding the faintest breath of ancient air. Imagine coral adding another delicate band and another, while the world continues. All of it is slow, all of it is patient, all of it is proof that time can be a friend. And now, back at the trench, a small moment arrives, soft, almost private. A worker lifts something from the soil. It is not gold, it is not a crown, it is a simple object, perhaps a bead, perhaps a fragment of shell, perhaps a small tool worn smooth by use. In the lamplight, it looks ordinary, and yet it carries an astonishing intimacy. Someone once held this, long before the pores of clay, long before the tent and the lamp and the winter coats. The worker does not gasp, and he does not shout. He simply turns it in his fingers, and for a breath, the modern world and the ancient world touch, like two pages meeting at the spine of a book. And in that quiet contact, the story invites us deeper, toward the lives beneath the clay, toward the gentle continuity of people who rebuilt, who watched the sky, who learned to live with water, and who left behind small objects that still feel warm in the mind. If you're getting sleepy, let that be okay. Let the object become blurry. Let the lamp soften. Let the trench fade into a dark rectangle of calm. The story can continue without you gripping it. Before we move on, let the trench offer you one more calm exercise, so simple it hardly feels like an exercise at all. Imagine the brush again, moving in even strokes. With each stroke, something unnecessary is lifted away, a bit of dust, worry, a small tightness behind the ribs. Nothing is forced. The brush only suggests, and the body follows. If you like, you can match 3 breaths to 3 strokes. First breath, in, and feel the chest rise, out, and let the shoulders drop. Second breath, in, and feel the belly soften. Out, and let the jaw unclench, as if your mouth can rest open. Third breath, in, and notice the space behind your eyes, the way darkness feels like velvet. Out, and allow your thoughts to become less linear, more like drifting sand, present but not gripping. In the ancient world, so much depended on subtle signals, the smell of rain, the color of the horizon, the way birds quieted at dusk. Tonight, you can read your own subtle signals too. The heaviness in your limbs is a message, and the warmth under your blanket is a message. The quiet between your breaths is a message. They all say the same thing softly. You are allowed to rest quietly. Let's keep moving as if we're floating, lightly, through a long hallway of time. By now, the trench at has become a familiar place in your mind. Warm lamplight, soft dust, slow hands. It is our anchor. Whenever the story widens too far, we can always return to that small circle of safety. So first, return there. The lamp glows like a candle in a quiet room. The clay layer rests above, pale and unbroken. Below it, older soil holds fragments again, proof of living, and the archaeologists work with the kind of patience that feels almost like reverent. Now, with that safety steady, we can travel again, outward into the world the clay suggests. Because the clay is not only a record of water near it is also a symbol of something larger. The way landscapes shift, the way homes relocate, the way maps quietly redraw themselves while people continue to love, to build, to remember. Tonight we visit the drowned map again, not with urgency, not with sadness, with a soft curiosity, like touching an old photograph. Imagine a coastline thousands of years ago when the sea level was lower than it is today. The shore is farther out. The continental shelves, now submerged, are exposed as wide plains. Rivers run across them, carving gentle valleys. Marshes hold birds, forest edges move with the wind. People live there too, walking, gathering, making small fires, telling stories under the stars. They do not know they are living on a future seabed, but they only know that the ground feels solid beneath their feet and the air smells of salt. And then, slowly, the water rises, not in one day, not in 1 year, in a long, patient motion across generations. The shoreline creeps inward like someone slowly closing a book without slamming it. The rivers reroute. Wetlands expand. Some paths become harder, then impossible. People adjust. They move with what they can carry. They leave behind what they cannot. And what do they carry? They carry the most important things: their skills, their language, their sense of belonging, their small rituals of comfort. They carry stories, because stories are portable. A house is not. A shoreline is not. A story can live in breath, and breath can travel. This is why flood memories can persist for so long, softened and shaped into legend. A legend is not always a literal report. Often it is a vessel for emotion, the feeling of water taking familiar ground, the feeling of leaving a place you loved, the feeling of survival turning into gratitude. Imagine a family leaving a low-lying camp at dawn. The air is damp. The sand feels colder than usual. Someone looks back at the place where they slept, noticing the waterline closer than before. Not panic, just realization. The adults speak quietly. They gather items into woven bags. A child asks why they are leaving, and the answer is simple. The water is coming closer, so we move. They walk inland. They find higher ground. They build again. And, somewhere in the night that follows, someone tells the story. Once, the water rose, and we moved, and we found a new home. That is how a memory becomes a lantern. Now, let us drift across two specific places very lightly. First, Doggerland. Picture a broad plain where the North Sea is now. Imagine grassy stretches, shallow rivers, herds moving slowly, and humans walking routes they know by heart. Then imagine the water gradually covering it. The plain becomes a seabed. The roots become underwater valleys. The home becomes silence. But it is not erased, it is held. The sea holds it like a blanket holds a sleeping body. The seabed keeps the outline of river channels. Sometimes, even today, fishing nets pull up ancient bones, bits of stone tools, small reminders that people once stood there, not to shock us, to remind us gently that the world changes shape, and yet traces remain. Now, Sunderland. Picture the warm region of Southeast Asia, where islands are now scattered. In the distant past, some of those islands were connected by wide lowlands, forests spread, rivers ran, humans moved across land that is now underwater. Again, the water rose. Again, shorelines redrew. And again, people adapted. The soothing part tonight is not the loss itself. It is the continuity. Because the continuity is what allows your own modern mind to soften. It whispers, change happened before and people found their way. Change will happen again and people will find their way. That does not mean you must carry the burden of the future right now. It means you can let your nervous system relax into a deeper truth. Life has always been capable of adapting. Now let's bring this back to Mesopotamia once more, because is our anchor. As coasts changed and people gathered toward rivers, the riverlands became more densely lived in. Communities learned to irrigate, to store grain, to organize labor. They built not only houses but shared spaces, courtyards, markets, temples, and then sometimes water arrived in ways that forced another adjustment. Floods could spread across the plain, leaving behind silt. The silt could be both a gift and a challenge, fertility and disruption at once. Here is a soft, almost paradoxical discovery. The same water that threatens can also nourish. The same process that covers a street can also enrich a field. The same flood that forces movement can also create new soil for future planting. Nature often does not separate good and bad the way our anxious minds do. Nature simply moves, and people learn to move with it. If you have been struggling with good and bad in your own life, let this be a quiet permission. Some things are mixed. Some seasons contain both loss and growth. Some changes are painful and still lead to new ground. Now imagine an aerial view, soft, cinematic, of the Mesopotamian plain at dusk. The rivers shine faintly like ribbons. Small canals branch off. In clusters, mud brick houses gather in warmer patches of color. Smoke rises in thin threads. The fields are dark and damp, reflecting the last light. In the distance, a temple platform catches the fading sun, and beneath it all, under the surface, layers are building. A year's dust, a flood's silt, a hearth's ash, a wall's crumble. The silent library grows. Somewhere in the far future, a trench will be dug, a lamp will glow, and a brush will whisper over clay. The past will rise again, not as noise, but as a calm rediscovery. That in itself, what is soothing, what is buried, is not gone. It is resting. Now let's touch a small moment of human feeling. Imagine someone in long ago standing at the edge of a flooded street. The water is not raging, it is still reflective. The person watches their reflection tremble on the surface. Behind them, their home stands with damp, mud brick walls, the lower part darkened by water. They are tired. They are not heroic. They are simply human. But then they turn and walk to a higher place. They gather with neighbors. They share food. They make plans. Someone brings a lamp. Someone tells a story to steady the children. Someone says quietly, "We've seen the water rise before. It will pass." That sentence, soft, steady, can be medicine for a modern listener too. If you have been worried lately, if your thoughts have felt like water rising, let the ancient voice speak to you. You have seen hard moments before. You have adapted before. This too can pass. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. And now we move toward another gentle turning point. Not a dramatic reveal, but a deeper understanding of why the clay layer at feels so powerful. Because it is not only a geological record, it is also an emotional one. It is a physical reminder that sometimes life pauses, then continues. In the next part, we will return to the stacked places again, temples and layers, and we will let that idea bloom into a soft philosophy. That the strongest thing humans do is not to build once, but to rebuild gently without losing their capacity for warmth. For now, let the drowned map fade into a calm blur. Let the water cover the plains like a quilt. Let the rivers run like quiet threads. Let the lamp at remain steady in the background of your mind. And if your eyelids are heavy, let them be heavy. This story is designed to carry you. One slow breath in, as if you are stepping onto higher ground. Out, as if you are setting down what you cannot carry tonight. Tonight, let the drowned map rest beneath its quiet blanket of sea. Let the stones under the desert sky stay where they are, calmly pointing. And let the trench at remain in the background of your mind, like a small lamp that never flickers. Now we move into one of the most soothing ideas the past can offer. The idea of the thread, not a perfect thread, not a thread that never frays, just a thread that somehow does not quite break. But you can feel it in the way temples were rebuilt. You can feel it in the way flood stories were retold. You can feel it in the way people, after water receded, return to the work of making warmth, bread, shelter, laughter, a place to put the day down. If your own life has had seasons that felt like interruption, this part of the story is for you because it is about the soft strength of continuation. Imagine Eridu again. The light is late afternoon, a gentle gold that turns mud brick walls into honeyed stone. The air near the marsh tastes faintly of water plants. Reeds sway in slow agreement with the breeze. Somewhere a bird calls once, then lets the quiet settle back over everything. The temple platform stands low and familiar, like a calm shoulder rising above the damp ground. It is not trying to impress anyone. It has simply been there, in one form or another, for a long time. In our mind's eye, we watch a rebuilding. Not because something dramatic has destroyed the old temple, though storms and floods and time do wear everything down, but because rebuilding is what a living community does. A roof sags, a wall softens, the floor needs raising, the world shifts, and the temple shifts with it. So people gather. A man carries baskets of damp clay. A woman smooths a brick with the side of her palm, leaving a faint sheen where the sun kisses it. Someone else brings reeds for a mat, and the smell of fresh cut plants rises like a small green sigh. The work is steady, it is not frantic. It has the calm pace of a ritual. If you have ever cleaned your home slowly while music plays low, wiping, folding, placing things back where they belong, you know this feeling. It is the body saying, I can restore order, gently. In the temple courtyard, a child watches. The child does not understand the history beneath their feet, the layers of earlier floors and earlier walls. The child only knows the comfort of adults working together, the comfort of the same familiar place being cared for. And perhaps, without realizing it, the child learns the deepest lesson. The world can change, and still a center can remain. This is the thread. Imagine, too, a weaver in Inside a shaded room, away from the brightest heat, a loom stands like a quiet frame. Threads hang in long, pale lines. The weaver's fingers move with a practiced gentleness, over, under, until a simple cloth begins to appear. The sound is soft, a wooden shuttle sliding. A faint tap, a sigh of fiber tightening. No one calls this dramatic. Yet the cloth will matter. It will become a tunic that keeps a traveler warm at night. It will become a wrap for a newborn. It will become a covering laid over a sleeping elder's shoulders. And when it wears thin, it will be patched. When it frays, it will be rewoven into something smaller, rag, rope, stuffing for a cushion. This is what continuity looks like when you can touch it. Not perfection, but reuse. Not a single grand monument, but 1,000 small repairs. If you want, let your mind follow the loom for a moment. Let your thoughts become a simple pattern too, over and under, inhale and exhale, until they stop tangling. The body often relaxes when it senses a rhythm it can trust, even now in your own room. The same truth holds. A steady pattern can be gentler than any answer at all tonight. Now we let the scene widen to Ur is larger than Eridu, more urban, more crowded in its prime. It has streets that smell of clay dust and cooking smoke. It has markets where voices rise and fall like waves. It has courtyards where lamps glow at dusk, and the sound of evening prayers or songs drifts through doorways. And yet, even in a city, the human need is the same. To hold on to what steadies the heart. So people build in patterns, they repeat designs, they return to certain shapes because those shapes feel like home. When the rivers behave, life feels predictable. When the rivers shift, life adjusts. But the thread remains. People gather, people share, people rebuild. Now, return briefly to the clay layer at the clean pause. A pause like that can make you imagine a break. It can make you imagine a finality, but when you move below the clay, you discover the truth. The story continues. The thread does not run straight. It loops, it knots, it frays, it is rewoven. And that is what makes it human. If you're listening tonight with a tired mind, let this thought be simple. You don't need a perfect life to continue. You only need the next gentle stitch. One breath can be a stitch. One kind thought could be a stitch. One small act of care can be a stitch. Now let's follow the thread into the realm of stories. Imagine a night long after a flood when people sit together near a low fire. The walls are damp in places and the floor has been raised with new clay. A pot simmers. The smell is warm, grain, herbs, the faint sweetness of dates. And someone begins to tell a story. Not to frighten the children, but to settle them. The story says that water once rose. The story says that people moved. The story says that someone listened closely to the world and found a way through. The story ends not with terror, but with a quiet landing. The waters receded and life began again. The children, hearing this, do not fall into panic. They feel held. They feel part of a larger rhythm. They learn that they belong to a line of survivors, not survivors in the heroic sense, but in the ordinary sense. People who kept living. This is another thread, memory carried in voice. And voice is gentle. Voice is portable. Voice travels through time like a warm ember carried from one hearth to another. If you listen closely, you can hear that ember in the archaeologist's trench too. The brush is not only uncovering objects, it is uncovering echoes. A bead is found, a shard is found, a foundation line appears. Each one is a small reminder that someone once lived a whole day here, then slept, then woke, then lived again. And suddenly the modern listener, busy, anxious, overworked, can feel less alone. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. Now let's make the lantern even softer. Picture the simplest act. Someone in ancient Ur closing a wooden door at night. The hinge creaks quietly. The door settles into place. Inside, the room is dim. A lamp burns low and its light gathers on the floor like warm water. A blanket is pulled over shoulders. A tired body finds a comfortable position. This act is so ordinary that it could happen in any century, nor when that is the comfort. History is not only kings and temples. It is also doors and blankets. It is also breath and sleep. And when you remember that, your own bedtime becomes part of the same long thread. You are not outside history. You are inside it, resting the way countless people have rested, by seeking safety, lowering the light, and trusting the night to hold you. Now a soft discovery, very gentle. The strongest thing in human culture may not be stone, it may be habit. Stone can crack, walls can crumble, but habits, the small rituals of care, can persist. The habit of gathering near warmth, the habit of sharing food, the habit of telling stories at night, the habit of rebuilding what matters. These habits are threads, and threads can be retied. If you have ever felt that something in you is broken, we'd let that idea soothe you. A thread can be tied again. It may not look exactly the same, but it can hold. Now we return to the trench one more time. The lamp is steady. The winter air is thin. The brush continues its patient work. The clean clay layer above remains like a quiet ceiling. Beneath it, the deeper layers hold the earlier city. As the excavation goes on, the team begins to sense that they are not only measuring Earth, they are touching continuity. And in that quiet sensing, a new kind of peace arrives, the the peace of perspective. When you see life stretched across thousands of years, the sharp edges of today soften. Not because today doesn't matter, but because today is not alone. Your worries, real as they are held inside a larger story. And that larger story has always found ways to continue. If you'd like, let that be the gentle thought you carry into the next part. We are approaching a soft climax, an opening, not an explosion, where the meaning of the clay pause becomes clearer. Not a symbol of destruction, but a symbol of adaptation. In the next chapter, we will let the story bloom into that opening. We will stand under the endless sky and feel, without force, how time can be a lullaby, and how the Earth's quiet records can teach the modern heart to loosen its grip. For now, let the thread rest in your palm, warm and simple. In, a slow breath. Out, an even slower release. And if sleep is already pulling you downward, let it. The thread will still be here when you return. Tonight, we arrive at a soft opening. An opening that does not burst, but simply widens. Or the way a room feels larger when you switch off the harsh light and let the lamp glow instead. Return to again, gently. The trench is narrow, safe, and still. The lamp hangs above it like a small sun that has learned to whisper. The winter air carries a thin, dry cold, and the brush makes that familiar hush, stroke after stroke, as if it is smoothing not only soil, but thought. Above, the clean clay remains like a held breath. Below, the older layers return to their quiet clutter, ash, shards, traces of hearths and floors, small proofs that people once moved through evenings here and then slept. And somewhere between those two worlds, the mind understands something tender. The clay is not only a line in the ground, it is a moment in the human story when the world asked people to adjust, not to surrender, not to disappear, but to change their footing, to lift their lives to a slightly higher place, to wait, and then to return. If you have ever been forced, by circumstances, by grief, by exhaustion, by the ordinary pressures of modern life, to pause and recalibrate, you might recognize that feeling. It is not a defeat, it is a turning. The archaeologists do not frame it as a tragedy tonight. They don't need drama to feel the weight of it. They simply feel the boundary, a before, a quiet in-between and an after. And as they feel it, we feel it too, the way listeners can sometimes feel a scene as if it's happening in the room with them. The lamp's warmth, the cool night outside the circle of light, the dust settling like a slow snowfall, the steady hands, the unhurried presence. If your thoughts are racing, well, imagine that they are dust particles in the lamp's beam. They float, they shimmer, they drift. And then, without being forced, they begin to settle. Now, widen the frame. Imagine stepping away from the trench and looking out across the dark plain. The ziggurat rises in silhouette, dark steps against darker sky. It looks less like a monument tonight and more like a reminder. People once climbed, slowly, not to win against the heavens, but to meet the world with attention. Above it, the stars hold steady. They are the same stars ancient eyes once traced, and the same stars you could trace if you stepped outside right now, wherever you are listening from. That sameness is a quiet comfort. It suggests that some things remain even as other things shift. And in that quiet moment under the endless sky, something felt different. Not louder, not sharper, just different. The way your breathing feels different when you realize you are finally safe enough to let go. The clay layer, the temples, the stones, the drowned plains, all of them begin to arrange themselves in the mind as one gentle lesson. Life is not a single structure. Life is a practice of returning. People return to rivers when coasts change. They return to higher ground when water rises. They return to familiar temple shapes when the world feels uncertain. They return to the sky when they need rhythm. They return to story when they need meaning. They return to one another when they need warmth. And you tonight are returning too. Returning from the brightness of the day into the softer light of evening. Returning from tension into release. Returning from scattered thought into a simpler rhythm. One slow breath here can be enough to mark that return. In, a gentle gathering. Out, a gentle release. Now imagine the clay again. Not as a barrier, but as a door. When we picture a door, we often imagine opening it quickly, but this door opens in a different way. It opens by lowering you into calm. It opens by making you feel the scale of time. It opens by reminding you that the human story includes pauses that are not punishments. They are invitations to adapt. In the modern world, adaptation is sometimes framed as constant hustle, but the ancient kind of adaptation is softer. It is listening, it is watching, it is moving when you must and resting when you can. It is rebuilding with familiar hands. Imagine for a moment a family after a season of water. They have moved to higher ground. The air smells cleaner, the soil is drier. The children are quiet at first, not because they are afraid, but because everything looks unfamiliar. Then someone lights a lamp. Someone spreads a mat. Someone sets a pot on a small fire. And suddenly the unfamiliar place begins to feel like home, because home is not only geography. Home is a set of gentle actions repeated with care. That is the kind of climax we allow tonight. Not a battle, not a collapse. A small lamp being lit again. Back in the trench, the archaeologists lift their gaze from the soil. They are tired, but it is a good kind of tired, the kind that comes from steady work. One of them might rub warmth into their hands. Another might wrap a scarf tighter. They exchange a few quiet words, then return to their careful silence. Or because the earth asks for the same kindness you ask of yourself at bedtime, slow, steady attention. And as the story deepens, the modern mind can begin to soften in a new way. It can begin to trust that time is not only a pressure, time is also a cushion. When you view life in the span of long centuries, some of today's sharp edges become rounded, not because your life is small, but because your life is held inside something vast, a vastness that can feel like protection. That is why deep time can be a lullaby, not because it makes you indifferent, because it gives your heart room. So tonight, we let the clay at become a symbol of room, a room between chapters, a room where the world goes quiet, a room where you are allowed to pause without guilt. When we let the stacked temples become a second symbol, that what matters can be rebuilt without losing its spirit, that repetition can be soothing, that continuity can be crafted, and we let the stones under the desert sky become a third symbol, that rhythms return, the sun rises, the seasons turn, the stars shift with quiet reliability. All of these symbols point to the same gentle truth. You do not have to control everything for life to continue. You only have to keep a small flame. There is a simple image that Woolley's team would have understood, even if they never spoke it aloud. When the night grew colder and the lamp's circle of light felt smaller against the desert, they would eventually pause their work. Not because the story was finished, but because bodies need rest and the earth can wait. Imagine the moment they decide to stop for the evening. A brush is laid down carefully, bristles facing upward, as if it deserves to breathe. A cloth is lifted and placed over the trench, not to hide anything, but to protect it from wind-blown sand. The cloth settles with a soft sigh and the trench becomes quiet again, like a book gently closed with a finger marking the page. Then the archaeologists climb out, one at a time, their boots finding the ladder rungs in a slow, steady rhythm. Above ground, the air is colder, and the vastness of the night meets them fully. They stand for a moment, looking out, not to search, not to solve, but simply to feel the scale of the world. A few stars flicker brighter, and the ziggurat's shape holds the horizon like a calm presence. Someone pours warm tea from a kettle. On the steam rises and disappears, hands cup the mug for heat. No one speaks loudly. Words, if they come at all, come in the tone of people who are already halfway inside sleep. And you might notice something. This is also a ritual. Work, then pause. Attention, then release. Discovery, then rest. If you are the kind of person who carries the day into the night, this ritual can be a quiet permission. You can place your own brush down now. You can cover the open trench of your mind with a soft cloth. You can tell yourself gently, I will return to my thoughts tomorrow if I need to. Tonight, I rest. The gentlest question to open the door to curiosity is, why is this place so quiet? And the gentlest answer might be because quiet is how the world heals. Somewhere, a small wind moves across sand. It does not scatter the camp, and it simply passes through like a thought you do not have to follow. And inside that passing, the night feels kinder, and your breathing finds its pace. If this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself. Something simple like, I made it through today, or I'm safe enough to sleep. If you're listening with a tired body, let this be your small flame. Not a task, not a demand, just a warmth in the chest, a steady breath, a soft awareness that you are here, and that is enough. Now we prepare to drift toward the resolution of the night. Not an ending that closes with a click, but an ending that fades like a lantern being turned down. In the next part, we will return to the Earth's quiet archives, sediment, ice, coral, and let them teach the final comfort. That the world can hold memory for you while you sleep. For now, let the camera return one last time to the lamp above the trench. The brush slows, the dust settles, the clay's pale surface holds its hush, and above the stars remain, wide, patient, and kind. One more breath in, as if you are stepping through the door. Out, as if you are laying your day down on the other side. Let the lamp above the trench dim in your imagination, not because it goes out, but because it no longer needs to be bright. We've seen enough. We've felt enough. And now the story can carry you with less detail, the way a lullaby carries you with fewer words. Tonight, the deepest comfort is not a single fact. It is the mood of the facts, quiet, steady, forgiving. So we return one more time to the silent library of the world, not to analyze it, but to rest inside it. Imagine the planet as a slow, impatient keeper of memory. Ice holds tiny bubbles of ancient air like beads of breath. Coral holds faint rings like the soft lines on a fingertip. Sediment holds dust and pollen and ash like pages laid down one over another. And in Mesopotamia, the clean clay layer at Ur holds a pause, an unbroken hush that separates two living chapters. None of these records are loud. None of them force you to pay attention. They simply exist, and that is what makes them soothing, because the modern mind is often tired of being demanded. A phone demands, a schedule demands, a newsfeed demands, even worry demands, insisting you think one more thought, solve one more thing, prepare for one more possibility. But the earth does not demand, the earth holds, and tonight we can borrow that holding if you want. Imagine your worries as small bits of dust. You don't have to fight them, you don't have to chase them away, you can just let them settle the way silt settles in still water. In a gentle inhale, out a slower exhale, dust settles. Now, Imagine the archaeologists at Ur again preparing to close the trench for the night. The brush is laid down carefully, as if it has earned rest. A cloth is drawn over the open earth, protecting the layers from wind. The cloth settles with a soft, familiar sound, like a blanket being smoothed over your legs. Then the team climbs out and steps back. Above, the sky is wide. The ziggurat holds its silhouette. The desert air is cool enough to feel clean. No one speaks much. They don't need to. The day's work has already said what it needed to say. They have found a pause made of clay, and beneath it a continuation made of ordinary life. And that continuation is the most human thing of all. If your day has felt complicated, let the simplicity of that be a balm. Life continues by doing small things gently. A lamp is lit. A pot is set on a fire. A door is closed. A child is tucked in. A story is told. Sleep arrives. The earth turns. Now imagine the turning of the earth itself. It is a slow motion you cannot feel directly, like the growth of a tree or the drifting of continents. Yet it is constant. In this very moment, the planet is rotating, bringing some places toward morning and others into deeper night. This turning does not ask for your permission. It does not require your management. It simply happens. And that is one of the gentlest truths you can take to bed. The world will keep moving even if you stop holding everything. You can let go tonight, not forever, just for the hours you need. Imagine the earth as a great cradle, rotating slowly under the stars. The sky is not a ceiling that traps you. It is a wide dome that allows you to feel small in the best way. Small enough to rest, small enough to stop performing, small enough to simply be. Now bring that back to the people we've met. The people of Eridu rebuilding their temples, layer upon layer. The people near Nabta Playa placing stones to mark the year's turning. The people along shifting coasts carrying stories inland. The people of Ur living above and below the clay pores. All of them lived inside forces they could not fully control. Water, weather, season, time. And still, they found steadiness. How? They built rituals, they kept patterns, they shared warmth, they paid attention without panic. And those are tools you still have even now. A ritual might be as small as this story playing softly while you breathe. A pattern might be as simple as lengthening the exhale. Warmth might be the weight of your blanket. Attention might be noticing that you are safe enough in this moment. If you want, you can practice the ancient kind of attention right now. Notice the quietest sound in your space. Maybe it's a fan, maybe it's distant traffic softened by walls, maybe it's your own breath. Let that sound be like the brush in the trench, steady, unhurried. Now notice the weight of your body. Where is it heavy? Where is it supported? Let the support be enough. Let gravity do the work. The ancient world trusted gravity. Clay bricks dried in the sun because gravity and time agreed to do their jobs. Sediment settled because gravity held it. Water found its level because the world allowed it. You can allow your mind to find its level too. If thoughts rise, let them rise. If they fall, let them fall. You do not have to chase them. Now a final soft discovery, one meant to comfort rather than astonish. The past is not only behind you. In a way, it is beneath you. Not beneath you in rank, but beneath you in support. It is the layered foundation that holds the present up. Every ordinary night you live is possible because countless ordinary nights came before. Nights when people learned how to build shelters, how to share food, how to light lamps, how to tell stories, how to settle children, how to endure seasons, but how to rebuild. That foundation does not demand gratitude, it simply holds you, and because it holds you, you can rest. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. If you feel loneliness at night, let this be a gentle counterweight. Your experience is part of a long human pattern. You are inside a shared story, even if you are listening by yourself. The voice you hear is a small bridge across time, connecting your breath to other breaths, your tiredness to other tiredness, your hope to other hope. Now let the images become simpler. The trench becomes a dark rectangle covered with cloth. The lamp becomes a dim glow behind canvas. The ziggurat becomes a calm shape. The rivers become distant, quiet threads. The drowned plains become still underwater, and the stones under the sky become silhouettes. The ice and coral and sediment become a single idea. Memory held gently. And over all of it, the earth turns. The earth turns toward morning somewhere. It turns toward deeper night elsewhere. It does not rush either one. If you've been rushing yourself, let the earth teach you a different pace. Let your body follow that pace now, as if you're floating on a slow tide. In, a breath that arrives without strain. Out, a breath that leaves as if it has all the time in the world. Now, if you're still awake enough to hear this clearly, let it land softly. You do not need to keep watch tonight. You do not need to keep solving. You do not need to carry the whole world in your chest. The world can turn without your supervision. The past can be held without your effort. And your body can sleep without earning it. If this story has brought you calm, don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful nighttime journeys. And if you feel like it, leave a gentle comment, just a few words, to mark this moment of rest. Now, we are almost at the final page of the night. In the last part, we will let the story fade into a true sleep outro, soft, slow and quiet, bringing you back to the most basic comfort of all, the breath, the dark, the gentle turning of the earth. For now, let yourself drift. The lamp is low, the trench is covered, the sky is wide, the earth turns, and you can let go. Part 12. The lanterns go quiet. The night has carried us far, and very gently. So now we let everything soften. We let the trench at become a quiet, covered space beneath the stars. So we let the clay layer remain where it belongs, resting, holding its pause. We let the temples at Eridu settle into their layered calm, like stacked blankets of devotion. We let the stones near the desert basin stand still, pointing without asking anything of us. We let the drowned plains sleep beneath their slow water. And we let the silent libraries of ice, coral, and sediment keep their patient records without needing you to hold them in mind tonight. If you've stayed with the story this long, you may already feel it. Your thoughts are slower. Your body is heavier. Your breathing is more even. And the world outside your room or outside your headphones feels farther away, as if it has agreed to wait until morning. That is exactly what we want. So let this final part be less like a chapter and more like a fading light. Imagine the archaeologists at the very end of their evening. The camp is almost silent. A kettle cools. A mug sits half-finished. The wind moves over sand with a hush that resembles the ocean, distant and steady. The cloth covering the trench lies flat, barely lifting at the edges, as if it is breathing. Someone turns down the lamp, not off, just lower. The warm circle of light grows smaller, then smaller again, until it is more glow than illumination. And that glow is enough because the story has already been placed gently into the earth and into you. Now picture the trench as a book that has been respectfully closed, not slammed, not abandoned, just closed with a finger marking the page. That simple gesture is one of the most comforting gestures in the world, the promise of return. Not an anxious return, not an obligation, a calm return, a return that says, "This can wait." So tonight, let your own mind close in the same way. If you have worries waiting, emails, decisions, unfinished plans, imagine them as open pages. Now imagine placing a soft cloth over them, the way the trench was covered. You are not denying them. You are protecting your rest. You can return later. For now, you sleep. The earth, after all, is very good at holding things until we are ready. Now, if you'd like, take a slow breath and imagine it as the final small ritual of the night. In gently, as if you were drawing warm air into a quiet cave. Out, slowly, as if you were letting a lantern drift down a river. In, and feel your chest soften. Out, and feel your shoulders sink. In, and notice the weight of your blanket. Out, and let your jaw relax. Now let the story become images without words. A pale clay layer, smooth and quiet, unmarked. A warm lamp above a trench. A stepped silhouette of a ziggurat against a starfield. A temple platform near reeds, rebuilt again and again. A desert basin holding water in one season and silence in another. Stones that point gently to the turning year. A drowned plain beneath dark sea. A bubble of ancient air held in ice. A coral ring forming in warm water. Dust settling on the bottom of a river. All of it moving slowly. All of it steady. All of it proof that time can be gentle. If your mind tries to grab at a detail, let it go. The story does not require you to remember. It only asks you to feel safe enough to rest. And now the softest reflection, one that doesn't need explanation. The strongest thing humans ever did was not build a wall. It was keep the fire in a hearth, night after night. I'll keep the fire in a story passed softly to a child, keep the fire in a temple rebuilt when the old one softened, keep the fire in a small lamp hung over a trench, so the past could be touched without harm. And tonight, the fire you keep is even simpler. It is the warmth of your breath. It is the quiet inside your room. It is the permission to stop striving. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. Now let the lanterns go quiet, not extinguished, just quiet. Because the night is wide and it does not require your effort. Imagine the earth turning again, slowly under the stars. Somewhere morning is approaching. Somewhere the sky is deepening into midnight. Somewhere a river is shifting its channels a fraction of an inch. Somewhere a silt is settling in still water. Somewhere an ancient city sleeps beneath sand, perfectly content to remain unknown for another day. The world is doing its work, so you do not have to. If you feel a tug of rest pulling you, follow it. Let your thoughts blur. Let your images soften. Let your hearing become less sharp, as if the story is moving farther away on a slow boat. Before we close, one last gentle invitation, soft, never urgent. If this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself. It can be as simple as, "I'm here," or "Good night," or "I made it through today." And don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful nighttime journeys with Ancient Sleep Story. Now nothing else is required. No more analysis, no more effort, no more holding, just the dark, just the breath, just the slow turning of the earth.
In, out. The lamp is low, the trench is covered, the clay holds its hush, the stars keep their patient distance.
Our story pauses here. Every visual and word you've experienced was assisted by AI, yet guided and perfected by sincere human emotion. We hope this harmony of history and technology has crafted a beautiful dream for you tonight. Let go and drift deep into sleep. Good night.